everybody, let's talk about a complaint or a concern I hear from women not infrequently where they feel like they don't know what turns them on anymore. They would say that maybe there was a time that they felt like they were aware of the kind of touch that felt good or how they could get themselves kind of excited, but that's changed for whatever reason over time. So if that's a concern for you, here's a couple of things I'm going to suggest you think about. Now, of course, you want to mention it also to your gynecologist so you can see if there's any other sort of hormonal or physiological thing going on that needs to get looked at. But just in general, a couple things to think about.
Before we start, a small disclaimer. The Sex Doctors podcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice.
One is you want to experiment with touch, and that's really going to mean masturbating on your own for a while. So I would suggest you get a variety of different vibrators. There are so many sex toys out today, and you don't have to go to a sex toy shop. Just, go to your favorite online retailer, and they'll be mailed to your door, by the next day. So there are different kinds of vibrators. So there are ones that are sort of more traditional stimulation. There are some that kind of are a suction that are intended to draw blood into your clitoris. There are ones that stimulate different parts of your body at the same time. So I would suggest you get a few of them and start to play around. And if any of them feel too intense, then put a sheet between the toy and your body and see if you can start to notice things you like better over time. So I would encourage you to masturbate regularly. You're going to need probably some time to kind of get to know your body again. And so make it pleasant time. So put some nice music on, lock the door so you don't feel like anyone's going to interfere, and just, sort of take some time with yourself. So that's one piece of the homework. The other piece is to experiment more with fantasy. So touch and then fantasy. So the thing about fantasy is that women will often say to me they don't have a fantasy that turns them on, or the one they used to use doesn't work anymore. So nothing really can kind of get them going intellectually. So that's not, I don't know that I've ever heard that from a man, but I hear that from women not uncommonly. So there's research that I talk to my clients about that can help them maybe approach this in a different way. And basically what this research has found is that female arousal, that's the body's response, that's not emotional desire. Arousal is the body's response to stimulation. So that's like, that's lubrication and swelling to her genitals, that sort of stuff. So her arousal is what's called nonspecific. And what that means is her body is likely to arouse even to stuff that she doesn't intellectually think is, excuse me, her body's likely to arouse even to stuff that she doesn't intellectually think is exciting. So let me explain that research first. It'll help make this all make a little more sense. Now, and this research has been going on for a long time, and it's replicated many times. And what they've done is they've asked women what kind of porn would turn them on, or what kind of porn scenes turn them on. And so women will say what they say. So let's say this particular woman says she likes heterosexual sex, lesbian sex, and group sex, let's say. And then they put her in a room by herself, and they're monitoring her body's physiological sexual arousal, which means she's kind of hooked up to stuff so that they know like how much blood flows going to her genitals and how much she's lubricating, that sort of stuff. But then they show her a whole bunch of porn clips of all kinds of different things, and they take breaks between each porn clip. And so she watches all these porn clips, and then she's asked to rate what she thinks of the porn. And at the end of the study, they ask her, which porn clips did you like? What turned you on, whatever. And she'll say the same thing she did when she started the study. She'll say heterosexual sex, lesbian sex, and group sex. But the thing is, her body aroused to all kinds of different scenes. So her body aroused to apes having sex, and it aroused to dominance themes that she would have thought were inappropriate. It aroused to whatever else. So basically, the bottom line is her body tends to arouse even if her mind's not in the game. Now, we don't see that with men. With men, we see they'll say what turns them on. They'll watch the porn. They'll get an erection for what they said would turn them on, and that's the end of it. And so we could kind of discuss why that might be the case, but that's sort of beyond the topic of this video. Um, and there's also some discussion of whether or not there's what's called a measurement error here. Maybe women's bodies need a little more time between the porn clips to see what really turns them on and what doesn't, that sort of thing. But nonetheless, even if there is a measurement error, I think there's still some real interesting information in this research. And for the most part, it's trusted research, which is women can sort of say something isn't appropriate or feel critical about it, but nonetheless, her body will still arouse. Now, if you're having trouble figuring out what turns you on, I think this is really important information because basically what you might want to take from it is perhaps you're ruling stuff out that your body could still respond to. And that's probably not in your best interest. So perhaps it would be helpful to keep that in mind. And then the next time you're reading erotica or watching porn or whatever, see if rather than kind of focusing from your brain and saying, that's appropriate, that's not appropriate, that's gross, that's not gross, or whatever labeling you might be doing, see if you could just focus on what's going on in your body and in your pelvis and what your pelvis is feeling about it. And that might be helpful in sort of opening some other kind of ideas about what could turn you on and what could help you sort of get in the game with your own partner, for example, if you're having trouble figuring that out. Okay? That's called female arousal being nonspecific. You could research that more if you want and see more about that research. But nonetheless, I find it helpful to share with my clients when they're struggling to figure out what turns them on.